Right, so today we're going to do a container for shade, not the full deepest darkest shade. What we're doing today probably wouldn't work best in 100% deep dark shade. It'll work on the fringes of 2 to 3 hours of sunlight. So if you want to recreate this, have a look in your garden and see if there's a little area that is like that. And for those of you that watched the last video where we did a little garden tour around Surrey and went and looked and hunted for some stuff, then the selection today will be of no surprise. Let me show you. So this is what we're going to use at a glance, and you can see the pot there as well. We've got cyclamen, we've got impatiens, and we've got this beautiful thing. I mean, look at the color. Sweet potato vine. So this flowers as well, although there are none on it, and I don't know if it will. I don't know if we'll have the weather for it. But let me take you through some of these choices. Right, so let's talk impatiens. These, and I've done these before, these are the New Guinea impatiens, right? Beautiful. So with the New Guinea types, or Impatiens hawkeri, what you're going to get is much more striking, vivid colour all throughout the plant. Now, I'm talking in terms of how you see that the flower has multiple colour in it, a little bit of shade. It's got this beautiful, beautiful tails. I mean, look at that for detail. Beautiful little pink tails. And you can see with the foliage as well, there's a certain depth and richness to the foliage. You've got, of course, these lance-like leaves with little teeth, quite stunning. But as well, if you can see the stems, you can see that there's colour in those as well. And I think as a standalone plant, when we talk about, you know, designing and creating these feature pots with, you know, these kind of centerpiece plants as your kind of showstopper, that for me is a showstopper. Impatiens is more like a kind of fringe plant. It doesn't necessarily grow in the deepest shade, deepest part of a forest. What it does like to be, it's on the fringe. Okay, so you've got moisture, but not waterlogged. And because we're dealing with shade, remember that if it's not getting a lot of sun, that water is not being evaporated or being taken up by the roots as much. Okay, so you've got to really balance your watering. Don't overwater. Okay. The other thing that Impatiens really wants, because remember it's a little ground dwelling thing, and it's going to be canopied by some big trees, bigger plants, which means they drop all their debris. And what does that produce at the base of this little forest or woodland floor? It gives you, of course, a lot of leaf mulch, which means that it wants quite light, free draining soil. Okay, remember, we're taking our cues from nature. Okay, we try and, if we really want to, I guess, grow something well, have it do well, not waste money, because that is probably the most number one money saving tip, is buy a plant and then give it what it likes, and then it won't die on you, and you won't have to replace it. You won't have to buy another one. So when it comes to these, light soil, if you have your own leaf mulch or leaf kind of compost, use that. You can enrich the compost with perlite or vermiculite, something that kind of gives you a looser structure. Now look, that's not the most important thing if you can stay on your watering, but if you do want the best kind of performing Impatiens, then try and give it a nice loose soil structure. Now you can overwinter these if you have a conservatory, an orangery, a greenhouse. A shed might work, maybe, but you could bring it in over winter and it would do decently well. I mean, we've done Coleus before, and in terms of what this Impatiens likes, it's not too far off in terms of climate, in terms of weather, in terms of warmth. Now, Impatiens is part of the balsam family, so of course there's some very bad behaving balsams, but when it comes to this New Guinea Impatiens, you shouldn't have any problems. Our accent or our contrast, remember when we're talking about, you know, creating these little displays, typically we're dealing in threes. We're dealing with the showstopper, we're dealing with the accent, and then we're dealing with the thing that ties in those two things together. Okay, the bridge. This is our accent. Look at the foliage beautiful shape, almost like an ivy-esque shape, and that rich color. This is sweet potato vine, is the common name. It's a type of Ipomia, and again, there's a couple of bad ones of those. For example, bindweed, things we don't want, but there's also things that we do like in this family. Now, we're in zone 8, so this is quite tameable. If you're in zones 9 to 11, this can get a little bit invasive and it can get quite big, okay? You can either have it trailing as ground cover, or you can even put it to a trellis or something for it to kind of weave itself up through and around and have it grow up in a column. Because we're doing this in shade, and when it comes to things with this type of coloration, okay, shade might not give you the best richness or depth of color, and what you might get, if I can show you a little new shoot, you might get it to be slightly more greeny. I think you can see one just in there. Just where? Just there. Anyway, if you can't see that, it's fine. Just know that if you're giving too much shade, and that's how you'll know, you'll get less vivacity in color and depth. You'll start to go a bit green, okay, which is fine for us. You know, a slight green tinge will almost give us still quite a nice contrast to that. Like you can see, I really like that combo, so that's kind of what we're building off. So that sweet potato vine also comes in green. Now, if it'll flower, it'll kind of make a very similar colored flower to the Impatiens. It'll give us like a little pink, almost like a little pink trumpet flower, okay, with a kind of darker center. Quite nice. So I'll either put a picture up on the screen or simply Google it, purple sweet potato vine, and you'll see it. Okay, so that's the accent. Now, I'm sure a lot of you, most people, most gardeners in Britain will be familiar with these. And these are sold everywhere. You can pick these up very easily, even in shopping supermarkets even. This, however, is Cyclamen hederifolium. So this cyclamen type, hederifolium, is your cyclamen that flowers from basically late summer all the way through to kind of start or mid-winter. So there's a lot of flower to be had here with this particular type. You'll find it commonly kind of listed as ivy-leaved cyclamen as well, and you can see the leaves there are quite stunning. They have these beautiful, gorgeous patterns, almost kind of silver-esque, almost have a little kind of shimmery glow to them. And of course, this is the most common kind of flower color for it. It's this kind of pink with kind of white, and you can see how dainty they are as they come up from the base. They shoot up this almost nodding, very polite flower, and that'll open up and become upright just like those. Okay, so this is the thing that kind of ties our two choices together, the Impatiens and the sweet potato vine. And if I can get them to show you, this is kind of what we're going to create. Not a bad pot for a shady corner, I think. I think that's going to look really good. So in terms of what this likes, you know, one of the most common kind of planting for these is under trees, deciduous trees. However, do be careful, because the one thing that they really don't want, the one mistake that people will often make with this, is they'll let it dry out. Wherever you've planted this, because you can't see it necessarily for a bit of summer, you'll let the area that they're in go really dry, and they don't like that. And then you'll expect your cyclamens to come up and they won't, and you'll think, oh, what's happened? Well, the answer typically will be that they got a bit too dry. Okay, remember, these things are like little woodland floor dwelling things. They want kind of this, again, loose, leaf-rich soil on top that never goes completely dry. They don't want to be sitting in wet. Okay, they're not a bog plant. They don't want to be permanently, you know, sat in dampness. But what they do want is that light, nice, moist kind of environment. You know, think of a woodland. Think of, and I think I've mentioned that before, when you go on the fringes, you have some sun coming down, okay? So it's not the most completely dampest or wettest kind of area, but you definitely feel the temperature around you shift. You definitely feel that there's a bit of moisture in the air, okay? Those kind of areas never go completely desert dry. So think about that if you really want to grow these and grow them well and not lose any. So now let's talk pots. So you would have seen that in the previous video when we did our little tour. We ended up at, of course, home base. I love home base. Non-sponsored video. So this is the cheapest pot that you can find in home base. You know, because I also want to share with you ways to garden that doesn't cost a fortune. If you're looking for kind of a biggish pot, this was a $5, okay, $4.99. There's two of these. These are 15-inch pots. They, however, don't have holes. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to drill some. Now, if you don't have a drill, don't worry, that's perfectly fine. You can use hammer and nail a lot of times, do a lot of banging. You can use a hobby knife or a craft knife. You could even use, if you really don't have anything and you're just starting out, you could use a kitchen knife, but be very, very, very careful, okay? And of course, basically you'll go in and you'll twist and you'll make your holes that way, okay? But, I mean, if you've got a drill, best case scenario, failing that, hobby knife or craft knife or even banging something sharp will probably be as well quite safe. So, a lot of you might be tempted to get that really wide drill bit and go in there and give yourself some really wide holes, okay? Because you'll think, you know, well, it makes the most sense. That'll give me the best drainage to have big holes. But if you're doing that, and for example, you don't have any crocks to put down the base, you'll have a lot of soil come out those holes, okay? So I like to, rather than do like a few really wide holes, I'll do a lot of really small holes, okay? I find that the best when it comes to doing the pots and having to make your own holes. Because what you're almost creating, if you do it right, is like a sieve or a sieve. That water is slowly coming out, slowly coming out, slowly coming out. It's not all gushing out, and you're not losing a lot of soil coming out of big holes. So do a lot of little ones, not a few big ones. Welcome to Drill Cam. Now I will say, if given the choice, I probably wouldn't get a pot like this, simply because, little tip, is I don't like those curved rims, because those are perfect spots for slugs and snails to hide. That's a bit gross if you want to check it and you got to kind of stick your hand underneath it. So do be mindful of that. You also are giving a really good little house for some of our most disliked pests. Back to drill cam. Right, so you can see no real rhyme or reason, just lots of holes. Right, so let's get planting. Now remember when I said nice loose, nice loose leaf compost. I mean, you can see sticks still decomposting there. You can see some leaves in various stages of decomposition. This is extremely light, and when we say light, I mean it's light to the touch. When you hold it in your hands, you hardly feel anything. We're going to put this into both there. What I put already was the John Innes for mature plants. That's going to act as our base. Now these root systems, and if we want to overwinter the Impatiens, it's not going to stay in these big pots. This is going to be for our big display for the rest of kind of late summer, autumn into early winter. Okay, so it doesn't matter that the whole pots aren't full of this, but we save this for really the root layer, okay? Just because we're aware that this isn't going to be a for months and months or a forever thing. This is just going to be, let's give them the best that we can give them for the next kind of 12 weeks, 12 to 16 weeks. I mean, this is why we do it, right? There's something in the gardener that just loves playing in soil. Look how nice, see? Oh, we've got a little, how do you get there? So you can see
what I mean. And I've made this, anyone can make this, all you need is a bag and some leaves. So we'll just mix that in like a nice soup. So we're going to make a nice space for the impatiens, because that's our statement plant. And I might actually line this with a little bit of that loose soil, that loose leaf mulch. Quite pot bound, but I feel like you're really, whoa, very pot bound. I feel like you're going to enjoy your new home. So when you're dealing with this, I mean, go crazy. Not too crazy, but you really need to loosen that up. And we'll find the front and we'll backfill. Are we happy with that being the front? Maybe it's more like that. And you want to still firm that in. You can see why I've put the plastic down. Sometimes plastic has its uses. And number 2, still very pot bound. It's moments like this where you kind of feel like a bad father or mother. You know, you try to do your best for your little kids, for your little babies. That's fine. These have a lot of life in them, and I think they're gonna be fine. Right, I like that so far. Might need to tilt. Quite like that. Right. Next biggest thing, sweet potato vine. So what side is best? Should we do there? Or maybe on the outside? I feel that we got to do outside, right? Cyclamen's there. Yeah. Always tricky when you're working in these little areas where you've just got like inches of space between the pot and the plant. Just want to, with some patience and trying not to lose too much, you kind of just want to get your fingers in between the root ball and the pot. Use your other hand to gently lift the plant, because these sweet potato vines can be quite delicate and they can break quite easily. I mean, I try not to plant with the plant. If you consider the wall of the pot, don't go wall to wall. Try and put some soil in between that plant and the side of that pot. Don't plant it right next to the pot. The reason being is you want that roots on this side to still stretch out into some soil. It'll give you a healthier plant. Of course, the better root system, the more kind of root system there is, you'll have to water less because those roots are taking up more. You'll fertilize less because the roots will be taking up more. So it might be tempting. You might just think to yourself, oh, I'll just plant, you know, I'll plant it next right up to the pot. I'll have to use less soil and I won't have to do this finicky thing where I'm trying to get soil between the pot and the plant in this very awkward way. It is worth it. It is worth it for a strong plant. Looking good so far. Lovely little spaces for some cyclamens. I really can't speak today. Right, so I'm thinking 2. You can see that's really coming to life now. We've done that thing again actually where we've planted kind of opposite. We've made 2 of the same pot as opposed to giving you the symmetry when you look at both of them. I can't believe I've done that again. I've got too many things to focus on. I want to talk to you. I want to be somewhat entertaining. I want to teach you stuff. But I also need to remember to focus on doing the job. So at this stage, that's a very easy fix. Yeah, let's do that. There we go. Our little cyclamen. 2 should be quite enough, I think. Like it. What do you guys think? Let's finish putting the soil in. So when it comes to these cyclamen, we're planting them into pots where we've kind of got annuals. Now, you could, or if you were to do this, what you might think to yourself is you could put spring bulbs down underneath these plants. You could then lift the impatiens and the sweet potato vine if you want, and store them somewhere to overwinter and have them come back next year if you've got the facilities. Then you leave the bulbs, of course, in the pot, and you leave the cyclamen in the pot. Cyclamen will give you a nice little clump of flower up into the winter, and then in spring you'll have a nice little display or you could simply take the cyclamen out, lift them up, and if you've got an area that has the kind of environment, the climate of a woodland with the shadiness, these do great under trees and give you a little bit of colour in some dark, hard to plant spots. On the ground cover though, they'll stay small, so they'll need to be either towards the front, or you can make a very big display if you put a lot. Now, they do spread, but the spread is very slow. So if you want a real dense carpet of cyclamen, you'll have to plant a lot of them, because to wait for them to become a lovely big kind of patch of cyclamen, that's going to take many years. We might have been able to plant 3 and gotten a bit thicker, a bit more kind of voluminous display, but these things still have life in them. They're still going to grow, so we don't want to kind of overcrowd things. And there we are. So those are our little pots for shade. And the colour of those pots really works in our favour. That kind of grey-green, stone-esque, lovely accent to that. What do you think? Leave a comment below. Actually, while you're here, let me show you quickly a couple of the pots that we did. I don't know if you remember, for viewers of the channel, and hopefully you've been watching the videos. I mean, I really appreciate it. If you engage with my content, I really want to do more of this. I love being out here filming for you guys and sharing tips, and I've got a lot planned. But if you remember, we did a couple of these little pots for an exotic sunny area, and I'm going to show you what they're looking like right now. Remember these guys? The begonia with the sage. I told you it was a great combo. I mean, this thing is absolutely spilling out. With the petunia, little black down there, the pink with that sage. Gorgeous. So those are doing really well. You can see the little area coming along, beating its heart out for not the best year weather-wise. Need to do a little water down here, but yeah, those are our previous pots. Not bad. Right, so if you follow me, I'm going to move what we've just done into the position, or where I think I want them. There's not much going on here anymore,
So we've had the ferns, hostas, lilies have just gone over. If you saw the short or on the TikTok, that's Lilium anastasia, that was flowering absolutely beautifully. And you can see same on this side. Heuchera's done flowering, purple leaf one there, hosta's done. Ferns still going strong, but you know, no colour. The azalea's already done, the rhododendron's done. You know, from about mid-spring to now, right now, late kind of summer, there's stuff going on in this kind of area. This is, you know, kind of inspired by a spa or Southeast Asia. From the time that the rhododendrons go, even watching the ferns unfurl, or even the hostas coming up, I mean, that's such an exciting time. But now, you know, kind of this late summer into autumn period, there's not really much here that gives us colour and gives us pop. Okay, there's no more drama left, essentially, is what I'm saying. I think that these pots that we've just done are going to go either side, just here. I'm going to move the heuchera out. We might swap the lanterns and the statues as well, and we'll see how it looks. Right, and this is what we've ended up with. Yeah, that hosta's been terribly eaten. Not since I put down a bear trap though. So there we are. We've also got the fern behind, little elephant statue, but sweet potato vine. I feel like we need to turn this actually. And then loosen that up. So we've almost got that coming up and through. Yeah, we'll play with that. We'll play with it. And here we have it. Bigger fern. I mean, same fern. This one's a little bit older in a much bigger pot. Hosta there. So you can see the foliage of the sweet potato vine and the hosta. You can see the impatiens coming up through the fern there, and those little cyclamen should fill out and give us a nice little colour. So you can see, you know, why we've done that. And this kind of adds to our little spa area, our little kind of relaxation swing seat area there, because all the colour's gone. This is kind of what happens when you're dealing with things like pots. So this is just a patio. So when you're dealing with pots, you know, the azalea, beautiful, absolutely covered in flowers, beautiful pink vibrant flowers, that azalea, and it's in a pot and it's doing quite well. So in spring it's here, it's at the front, because it's absolutely covered in flowers and you want to be able to see it. However, as the flowers are gone, we push it to the back and it just provides this nice kind of green screen. You know, it gives you depth as you look through. By the time that azalea's done flowering, the fern's coming up and the hosta's coming up, and as those fronds are unfurling, I think that's magnificent. So then that comes to the front. Like on this side, again we've got the flowering cherry Kilimanjaro there, beautiful in spring, absolutely stunning, or even actually quite early, you know, but of course then he loses the flowers, he greens up and he gets relegated to the back. So too will happen to these lilies, they'll get cut, and then I'll put the pot a bit back and we'll shift all this a little bit so it just looks a bit neater. But these are the things that you have to consider when you're on a patio. Sorry, this swing seat looked too inviting as well. I just, you know, feel like I could talk directly to you. But this is the thing to consider for the patio gardeners or the balcony gardeners there, you know, or you've got this kind of space that you can't plant into soil and you want to do something with it. You know, consider what we've done here in terms of plants and options for shade that kind of take you through. I mean, I know that we're doing this now, but from kind of midsummer you'll get the impatiens kind of starting to flower, and they'll go all the way through. As well, think about foliage, think about, you know, leaf color and form, all that type of stuff. But don't try, this is what you must not do. Do not try and create within one container everything, every season. because I don't feel like you'll get the effect you want. If you want something to look full and lush and really vibrant with lots of different colour, flowering for a long period, you really need to make it seasonal and rotate it out. So you make a summer basket, you fill it with summer things, you know, and maybe put the spring bulbs in. Maybe, you know, do that bulb soup thing. But then, you know, once that beautiful, big, vibrant display is over, swap it out, cut it all down, put it to the back, and then put your autumn container out. So this seasonal rotation of container and cleverly hiding and shifting things back to front, front to back, and of course maybe a couple of evergreen things in there, that's going to give you an incredibly dynamic and beautiful and really rich container garden. As opposed to trying to make one container for all seasons, and it never looks incredible at any point in the year. I mean, you can go, if that's what you want to do, go for it. But me personally, I find a bit more success, a bit more, well, not success is the wrong word. I find a bit more joy in having the real big showstopper for a season and then shifting it. So I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you liked the pots that we did, and as well a couple of the tips and tricks, little design tips and tricks, and some hopefully helpful hints and hacks for your container garden. You know, it's not much gardening season left. Weather's been a bit naff, but there's still plenty of flowers to be had. There's still plenty of interest to be had. So yeah, remember to click the subscribe button, notification bell, leave a comment, like this video. It really helps. It helps to get me growing. I'm just starting out, and I love gardening, and I really want to share it with you. So anything you can do to help me, I'll be sure to help you with all your gardening needs and questions in the future. Take care and cheerio.